Vintage watch buying is enjoying incredible popularity. But starting out collecting watches can be a minefield, and if you're not careful, it can feel like swimming in a shark tank. My name is Felix, and in today's video I want to share the most important key points that need to be considered so that you don't have to swim with the sharks. We have broken down the video into 4 main topics. Check the seller, do your homework, check the service history, and last but not least, where to buy. So let's start with the first topic, check the seller. As cliche as the adage may be, buy the seller, not the watch, is true, helpful, and entirely worth remembering. It actually means no matter how nice the watch is or how good the price may be, you're actually buying your trust in the seller. So make sure that he's legit. Atmosphere of trust and comfort is very important before you pass your funds into somebody else. So ask yourself, is he trustworthy? Does he have a good reputation? What does customer reviews say? Check the internet and look for all information you can find. Was the seller mentioned positively or negatively on Google, Chrono24, Instagram, or even watch forums? So this first point is the difference between a good sale and a lesson learned. So always keep that in mind while vintage watch buying. So let's check the second point. Do your homework. The vintage watch market is covered with fakes, so-called Frankenwatches, and unscrupulous sellers. Do your homework. Talk to collectors, join web forums, watch YouTube videos, and ask questions. Learn about the watch you're interested in. Try to acquire sufficient knowledge about the watch you fell in love with. Only buy what you really know. Condition is the biggest differentiator in vintage watches and can mean the difference between a 3,000 watch and a 6,000 one. To shop smart, we always look for the following 8 points. First things first, if you buy online, good pictures are a must-have. There are only 2 reasons that a vintage watch listing will include unclear images. The seller is not able to make good pictures, or he wants to cheat you. So start to check the case. Has it seen a polishing wheel? Has it dents, scratches? And how is the overall condition? Are edges smooth or sharp? Smooth edges, by the way, can tell you how often the watch has already been polished. Second, check the glass. How's the overall condition? Does it have scratches or breaks, or does it look like new? Original glass out of its time is rare and can lift the value slightly. And it tells you a lot about how often the watch has been worn. But to change a broken glass is not expensive and not a deal breaker. Third, look for the hands. Are they exchanged or original? If they featured luminous material, is it original and does it match the hour markers? Fourth, check the dial. The dial is the most important factor for the value of the watch and unfortunately difficult for a layperson to recognize. And as we already told you, clear images are the foundation, especially for the dial evaluation. Start to break the dial into 4 components. Printed components, painted components, applied components, and the base finish. Printed components include hash marks, signatures such as Swiss made, T or Inca block, railroad chapter rings, and brand marks. Rarely were these painted freehand. Look for sloppy alignment of characters, mismatched fonts, irregular length of hash marks or indices, print that spills over from a sub-dial onto the main dial, and yeah, this point should be considered ingredients of a redial. Look for paint that appears too thick, irregular, or fails to match other marks on the dial. Look for luminescent material that sits too high or irregularly covers indices and numerals and hands. Fifth, check buckle and bracelet. If the bracelet and buckle are still original, that can mean that the watch has rarely been worn. A little stretch is inevitable. A bracelet stretches when the pins wear down, which is just the thing they do. Drilled holes in the links expand and create more room for the pin to jiggle around and cause play in the bracelet. Sixth, check the crown. Most manufacturers have different crowns for different models and year of production. Ask yourself, is the crown original and matching the year of production? Number 7. Make sure to check the original of your movement. Is it brown or rusty? Can you spot traces of water damage? Does the movement fit in the time period and reference? And how is the movement performing? Does it keep the time? How many plus minus seconds a day? And last but not least, number 8, check the serial and reference numbers. You can find them on the case back, or on the movement. With these numbers you can get information of the year of production and you can check its originality with similar references. Then compare all these given parts with the same reference of other examples in watch books, forums, Google research, Chrono24, YouTube videos, and so on. Now we arrived at the third point of our main topics, check the service history. Answering this one can be so difficult that it is probably the single biggest challenge in collecting vintage watches. The watch may seem to be running with no issues, but this can be simply sheer luck. And by the time the watch actually starts to show signs of trouble, you may have a major problem on your hands. It's very important that the watch is in good technical condition and fully functional. If not, original parts can be very expensive. For us, it is mandatory that the watch has been serviced by a professional watchmaker. In case of bad movement conditions, you can expect service costs of around 300 to 600 euros and more, depending on the watch and movement. Additionally, servicing a watch from a professional watchmaker can take weeks or months, depending on service parts and the movement. So always ask the seller for the technical condition. Is it working? Does it keep the time? How many plus minus seconds a day? How is the amplitude? And are there certificates for the service? Very important. Now we reach the fourth point of our main topics, where to buy. Knowing where to buy the watch of your dreams is just as important, if not more important, than choosing the watch in the first place. There are 4 primary options when it comes to purchasing vintage: auction houses, watch dealers, watch forums, and watch fairs. Next, we want to share our experiences because each one has its pros and contras. First, auction houses. Pros are bargains are possible. You can inspect the watch on site, and most of the time they were already checked by experts. Contras are you have to pay a commission, you have no warranty, you have no refund, and the final price is not fixed. Second, watch dealers. Pros are most of the time good picture quality, mechanical warranty up to 1 year, most of the time refund within 2 weeks, and secured and insured delivery. Cons are higher prices, and of course there were a few sellers who take advantage of your trust. So always remember to check the seller. The third is watch forums. Pros, attractive prices possible. Cons, you buy from a private seller. Mostly bad pictures, no secure delivery, no refund, no guarantee. And fourth, watch fairies and exchanges. Pros, there is a large number of watches to choose from. You can examine the watches on the spot and you pay average prices. Cons, you have less time for decision, no refund, no guarantee, and if you don't have that much knowledge in vintage watches, it is of course difficult to compare the watches at the fair with others to check originality. Another interesting theme is box and papers. Having the box and papers makes the watch much more expensive. Prices are higher up to 20%. But if you're after a good deal, look for a watch without its box and papers and just focus on the condition instead. And of course, some sellers and dealers buy box and papers separately to sell them as a full package to increase the prices. And it's just a piece of paper. It can be faked so easy. The watch market is huge, and with all the selection, it is quite difficult to find the right watch for you, especially if it's your first one. Finally, we would like to give you a few tips on how to find a watch that really suits you. What you love about watches should complement the other things in life you love. Do you wear a lot of color? Go for something with a colorful dial. Are you a little eccentric? Find a funky, unique piece from the 70s. If you're into mechanics of a watch, find a piece that's technically precise. And if you're like us, someone who loves history, you may want to find something with an amazing backstory. It's all about choosing a piece that meshes with your overall lifestyle and fashion sense. So that's all. We hope you enjoyed today's video and learned something new. So have a great day and good luck for your next purchase.